Hello, everyone, and welcome to Teachly University. This is Frank Nunez, and it has been quite a while since I've done one of these videos. It's great to see all of you, and welcome again to Teachly University. So in this lecture today, we're going to be discussing the wisdom of Charlie Munger, more specifically dissecting Poor Charlie's Almanack, the wit and wisdom of Charles T. Munger. I cannot talk today, excuse me. Again, it's been a while since I've done one of these. But yeah, we're going to be discussing Charlie Munger and some of the wisdom that he has passed on to us. Unfortunately, as I'm making this video, Charlie Munger recently passed away. And again, Charlie Munger just provided so much, not just wisdom on investing and business, but in life in general. There's a lot that we can unpack here with what he's left behind. And he's left a tremendous legacy working alongside Warren Buffett. So that's something we're going to be discussing today. So I want to start with our first quote from Poor Charlie's Almanack, where Charlie said that acquire worldly wisdom and adjust your behavior accordingly. If your new behavior gives you a little temporary unpopularity with your peer group, to hell with them. This is a great quote. This is classic Charlie Munger, by the way. But I wanted to start with this quote because I want to stress what he said here about acquiring worldly wisdom. Why is this so important? Well, we live in a world today we are inundated and bombarded with so much information, especially on social media. And much of this content, not saying all of it is bad, but a lot of this content is more clickbait and designed to get a lot of eyeballs and ratings and, of course, likes and clicks and whatever the heck you want to call it and getting subscribers. It's not necessarily designed to pass on wisdom that has stood the test of time, that will be just as relevant 200 years from now than it is today. And I think Charlie Munger passed on a lot of wisdom that if we apply in our lives, it can improve the quality of our business and our personal lives for the better. And of course, as well as our investment decisions, which I think Charlie was pretty good at, I would have to say, working alongside Warren Buffett. So our next quote, where Charles says that it's not the bad ideas that do you win, it's the good ideas. And you may say that can't be so. That's paradoxical. What Graham, meaning Benjamin Graham, that's what he's referring to, meant was that if a thing is a bad idea, it's hard to overdo. But where there is a good idea with a core of essential and important truths, you can't ignore it. And then it's so easy to overdo it. So the good ideas are a wonderful way to suffer terribly if you overdo them. This quote reminds me of something Alex Hormozy talked about in one of his YouTube videos, where he discusses rational optimism. I think I'm probably misquoting him here, but I want you to bear with me for a moment. Or I think it's, uninformed optimism. There we go. That's actually what he said. It's called uninformed optimism. So an example of this is, say we hear of an entrepreneur, we see it on social media, we hear it in the news, an entrepreneur that is doing extremely well, perhaps has sold their company for several $100 million or is just killing it. They become a unicorn, and their business is just doing incredible, and they're incredibly wealthy and successful. All the conventional measures of what we view success in today's modern world. However, what we don't realize is that this individual probably had to go through hell and went through a lot of different challenges in order to get where they want to be. So a good idea in of itself is not enough. You may see a lot of good ideas that you think you might be able to want to try to execute and follow, and maybe starting a business, writing a book, pursuing some sort of habit or practice, whatever that may be. But what you want to think about is ultimately what is the challenges that you're going to face, going to have to overcome when pursuing that particular idea. What is it that you have to know or don't know, for that matter? That's just as important. And it's understanding whether or not it's even worth pursuing it. Is it something that you really want to do? Sometimes we focus too much on the end result and not enough on the process itself of trying to accomplish that particular goal or bringing that idea to life. And that's the creative process. A lot of it's trial and error. I think there's nothing wrong with trying different ideas, but eventually you want to stick to one good idea and pursue it until you deem it's no longer worth pursuing and you move on to something else. And I believe that's what Charlie Munger was referring to. I want to think about things where I have an advantage over others. I don't want to play a game where people have an advantage over me. I don't play in a game where other people are wise and I am stupid. I look for a game where I am wise and they are stupid. And believe me, it works better God bless our stupid competitors. They make us rich. Great, great quote from Charlie Munger. And what he's alluding to here, I think, is the obvious. You want to position yourself where you have the advantage. You want to position yourself in environments and in situations that you have the higher probability of winning. And in fact, Scott Galloway talks a lot about this in his work, where he really is not a fan of pursuing your passion. And the reason is because a lot of our passions that we have are in industries that have a very high unemployment rate and puts you in a position to fail. And that's the last thing that you want to do. You want to position yourself in an environment or an industry where you have an increased probability of success, or put yourself, if you're starting a business, in an industry where there's plenty of market space and you have the skill set and ability to succeed. And that's very important. So again, it's putting yourself where you have an advantage over others. And most importantly, putting yourself in the right environment that you can thrive. I'm a big proponent of trying to think about not so much the right job or even how much money you want to make. It's what environment can you put yourself in where you can thrive. That's incredibly important. And the models have to come from multiple disciplines. And here, Charlie's referring to mental models, because all the wisdom of the world is not to be found in one little academic department. That's why poetry professors, by and large, are so unwise in a worldly sense. They don't have enough models in their heads. So you've got to have models across a fair array of disciplines. As I said, Charlie Munger was a big advocate of mental models. And what he's referring to when I mention mental models, it's if you're an entrepreneur in say, for example, you're an author, as I am, you want to have a mental model on how to assimilate information, do research, and have a process on how you're going to create your work, how you do research, how you promote your book for that matter. So you have different mental models for different disciplines and different skill sets. Athletes have unique mental models in different sports. You can get even more specific for specific positions. Tom Brady, for example, his mental model as quarterback was very distinct compared to maybe that of a linebacker or a wide receiver. He just had a mental model for success in that particular position. So developing a mental model requires assimilating knowledge and also, I think, following your instincts. That is very important. So then Charlie says that life in part is like a poker game wherein you have to learn to quit sometimes when holding a much loved hand. I discuss this concept of poker in my earlier lectures and the importance of risk taking or asymmetric risk. And if you recall in the last few slides where Charlie talked about how to position yourself where you have an advantage over your competitors, and I think in this case, what he's talking about is you want to position yourself where you keep making bets where the downside is minimal, but the upside is massive. But it's also knowing when to quit your hand. It's knowing when to walk away. And sometimes because of pride and ego, we refuse to leave a situation even though it's not good for us or it's costing us a lot of money or mental strife. So when it comes to treating life as poker, like a poker game, it's just knowing when to make bets, but most importantly, it's betting on yourself, which is incredibly important. Betting on yourself so that you increase the probability of success and putting yourself in a situation that if you make enough bets, that one hand can be a winning hand and it can lead to a massive upside and huge opportunities. So it's just keep making bets on yourself. So then Charlie says it's not given to human beings to have such talent that they can just know everything about everything all the time. But it's given to human beings who work hard at it, who look and sift the world from or mispriced bet, that they can occasionally find one. And the wise ones bet heavily when the world offers them that opportunity. They bet big when they have the odds, and the rest of the time they don't. It's just that simple. So Warren Buffett, if you look at his work schedule, he doesn't take a lot of meetings. He's not somebody that, I don't think he even has a cell phone. He might, but he doesn't take a lot of phone calls during the day. He spends most of the day reading. And he admits that he makes a few good investment decisions a year throughout a given time period when it comes to making investment decisions. So what Charlie's talking about here is that you're not going to know everything, but you know just enough where if you can recognize an opportunity, you want to be able to take advantage of it. And that means paying attention. And unfortunately today, with all the all the noise out there and our distractions, our cell phones, social media, the little pocket casinos that we have in our cell phones, it's very easy, or it's very difficult for that matter, to pay attention. So by paying attention, you may be able to recognize an opportunity that comes your way where if you make a large enough bet, you can win and something really amazing can happen. Again, it's just staying in the game and continuing to make bets. You're not going to know everything, but you may recognize an opportunity when it comes your way that comes with investments in business, entrepreneurship, and in life. So then Charlie says that life in its various passages can be hard, brutally hard. The three things that I have found helpful in coping with its challenges are: have low expectations, have a sense of humor, surround yourself with the love of friends and family, and above all, live with change and adapt to it. If the world didn't change, I still have a 12 now. So Charlie here talks about, and again, I apologize for my email, just got one in. So what Charlie talks about here is that the challenges of life, and when he says have low expectations, I think is that we try to force outcomes. There's this gap between where we are and where we want to be, and if we don't achieve a specific goal, get what we want when we want it, we get frustrated, angry, fearful, and we just end up putting ourselves in a situation where we just give up, and we end up going back to a baseline of disappointment and frustration that is not something we want to experience. So by having low expectations, I think what he means is to focus on the process. Don't so much worry about the end results. Keep making bets. Keep making wise decisions, not stupid decisions, and develop a mental model for how to succeed. And developing mental models means acquiring wisdom and applying it, wisdom from those that have succeeded before us, which I think is important. Having a sense of humor, I think, not taking yourself too seriously. I think sometimes we take ourselves very seriously. I'm guilty of this. But having a sense of humor about life, I think, certainly helps, especially during challenging times. And of course, surrounding yourself with friends and family, mentors, people that care about you. I can't tell you how important that is, especially during times when it seems like nothing is going right. You just want to give up, but having friends and family there to support you, that's very important. And I think if you just follow some of these simple remedies or recommendations from Charlie, I think of keeping it simple, surrounding yourself with friends and family, and focusing on the process, I think good things can happen when you develop a mental model and a process for success, not so much obsessing about when and how you're going to achieve a particular result. So then finally, to conclude, Charlie here says that I wanted to get rich so I could be independent. Like Lord John Maynard Keynes, the economist, independence is the end that wealth serves for Charlie, not the other way around. And I've said this in many of my lectures, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be financially independent. I think that should be one of our goals in life, is to achieve financial independence. I don't know if you haven't noticed, but things have gotten pretty expensive lately. And I think it's important that, obviously, to secure our financial future, we want to think about innovative ways to increase our cash flow, to create more value, and understand that money is a tool. It's a side effect of the value we create in society. The more value we create, the more help we can provide others without necessarily expecting something in return. We can create lots of wealth, not just financial wealth, but spiritual wealth and friendship and love and support from places we didn't even expect. And I think this lecture is a dedication to Charlie Munger, a great man who has passed on so much wisdom. And I think his wisdom will last, in my view, for an eternity. Just a great man that I hope we can continue to learn from well into the future. So thanks so much for watching this lecture today on Teaching University on Charlie Munger. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch all my lectures on creativity, personal development, and entrepreneurship. Thanks so much, and have a great night.